All right, today our topic is a great one. Dealer Group Confidential, driving efficiency, scaling success across rooftops with our partner vAuto. I think this is a growing need in an industry that is facing consolidation at an increasing scale. And so how we scale and how we grow systems across rooftops is something that more and more people are dealing with. And whether that is single points becoming small groups becoming medium-sized groups becoming large groups. It's kind of that environment where you kind of have to grow to survive, or at least we're seeing a lot of that. So I'm going to welcome my panel up today. I don't like to say this, but these guys are kind of a big deal. All right, so Dan always looks at me. He's like, you always get me in these things. I'm going to welcome Dan up for Dan Bannister, owner of Bannister Automotive. You're on the very end there. Also, we're going to bring up Trent Waybright, VP of Pre-Owned Operations at Kelly Automotive Group. Let's hear it for Trent. And last but not least, Derek Hansen, VP of Operations and Inventory Management, Head of vAuto. Welcome. Come on up. Everybody has a microphone? Okay, great. We're going to get right into this. I want to remind everybody that we have the question function in the app. Raise your hand if you've used the question function in the app, or at least you know raise your hand if you know where it is. Great. If you don't know where it is, open your app, click on agenda, click this session. It will say live over the session. And the bottom right, you can just ask some questions. We'll get to as many questions as we can. Fantastic. I think a lot of the things, the best things from ASOTUCon come as a result of the conversations. So I'm going to get right into it. Dan, I'm going to start with you. You're somebody who has, over the recent 5 years, have started to scale your business from a single point into multiple brands, multiple states. So you've dealt with a lot of these issues. You're probably dealing with new ones as the group grows. Can you just give us a little summary of the journey from your first store into becoming a group?
Well, I started selling cars in 1992 at a Nissan dealership, and in 2017 I was given an opportunity, or I don't know if I was given an opportunity. I created my own opportunity and bought up my partners, and I had 2 Nissan stores in Virginia, one in Norfolk, one in Chesapeake. And then in 2021, I bought a Ford store that's about 35 minutes from here. And then in 2024, I bought a Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram store and a Mitsubishi store. And those are about 35 minutes from my stores in Chesapeake and Norfolk, and then of course this one up here is about 3 hours from there.
And when you moved from 1 to 2 stores, what was the first squeeze you felt from an efficiency standpoint?
But for me, that was pretty easy because they were close. They were 15 minutes apart. I was already branded in the market, and one thing that was probably the most difficult for me moving to these other stores that are in different markets is that people not knowing who I am, or because we do a lot of marketing, obviously,
Sure.
and having that name recognition, and then having not having the same advertising message. So I had to change it up and do a lot of branding. So it was easy. Once I had that first store, I had all my processes, I had my people. I've already developed some people that could come over to the new store. I kept almost everybody at that store except maybe 1 or 2 people. And I was able to bring that culture by me being there, and made it pretty easy. But when I bought the Ford store, my 2 stores, my Nissan stores were doing well, but I can't spend all my time up at the Ford store, which is 3 hours away. So that was a much bigger challenge. It was a store that was failing and wasn't doing well. Didn't have good CSI or it didn't have a good it wasn't well represented in the marketplace. So I had to really turn that store around and change the perspective from the community to make sure that they understood that it was under new ownership and new leadership, and that was one of the biggest things that I had to do.
So a lot of rebuilding.
A lot of rebuilding, a lot of process and personnel changes, and that's very difficult when you're moving into a market that you're not familiar with. So that was probably my biggest challenge. And then when I went to Hampton, still taking over stores that weren't doing well, didn't have a good reputation in the marketplace, and then trying to let everybody know, hey, we're under new ownership, new leadership, new management, and bringing the culture. Because when I take over a store, I like to try to keep most people, but with the last 3 that I had, I almost couldn't keep anybody from the variable side and leadership side. And sometimes you have to do that. So those are some of the big challenges that I had.
Great. Thanks for setting the stage for us there. Trent, give us a little background on the store and what your role is there.
VP used car operations. Extensive back. I've worked for Tom Kelly for my entire career, 26 years.
Where did you start?
When I was a kid.
Washing cars?
No, selling. Sold for 6 years. Moved from there. I took a management position at our Saturn store. F&I was the 6th manager hired, variable manager in that facility. And Mike Funk, who ran the store at the time, felt like Saturn was going to take off. By December, it was me and one other dude.
Mike Funk?
Mike Funk. You know Mike?
I know Mike. Mike worked in the Virginia Beach market. I know him very well.
Yep.
Good guy.
Yep.
Great last name.
So they were all gone. Tom came to me and said, you're just going to figure it out. So that's sort of where it started for me. Put me through an ADA school, was pitched vAuto in my used car class would have been summer of 07. I was intrigued by it because I'm more of a technical guy. Mm-hmm. Came back, asked TK if I could try it. Sure, try anything because you guys suck at selling used cars. And so we did.
It's a nice pep talk.
Yep. We did so well with the tool that by late spring of 08, he had me turned on to all the stores, and I became the point person for it all. So
is it, how many stores?
We have 9 stores, 14 brands, 7 used car departments.
Geographically, about how far apart are they?
Most of them are within 5 miles.
Okay, so pretty consolidated.
Yeah, 3 of them are 45 minutes south of Fort Wayne.
As to set the stage, I don't know your journey into the auto industry.
Wow. Yeah. So my journey is a little bit different than the rest up here. My dad was in the military, right? So growing up, never had much exposure to automotive, but started my career in business and finance and tech. Ended up in consulting, was at Bain Consulting for a while, and that's where I got exposure to automotive. We did some projects for a couple of different players in the space, and that led to an opportunity with Cox Automotive. And I cut my teeth in automotive on the wholesale side of the business. So I spent my first 5 years at Mannheim in our digital marketplaces, trying to take the power of the audience and the eyeballs there and continue to help sell those in digital channels, and then came over to vAuto 5 years ago. And the opportunity to take the data and the insights from vAuto and that live market view, and that tool historically was at a rooftop level, as these guys mentioned. And now we've invested to enable groups, right? You've invested in the scale of additional rooftops to bring the insights to bear to help surface them in a way where they're easy and actionable across the stores of that group. We've been investing the last couple of years, started rolling that out at the beginning of this year, and we're seeing tremendous traction in the rollout over the last few weeks. And so we're excited at the opportunity it opens up for groups now to get better return on the investment that they've made with those stores and the scale that they have and how they think about where to place the inventory to keep that engine turning.
I think the concept of visibility, and having a clear view on what's going on across the stores, across the group, within the inventory, it breeds behavior. How do you see visibility affecting, like in real time? Because you have an interesting perspective, and I think this is true with a lot of industry partners that get a broad purview of not what's going on in one market, but all the markets.
That's right.
You get to see and hear a lot. So where do you see the visibility making the impact?
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly the first step is visibility, and then accountability, and then seamless workflows to execute. And the visibility is huge, right? As you mentioned, even with these guys and their experience, and as we talk to other groups, you can have 2 stores in the group in the same market, same make, 2 Chevy stores that have very different strategies and customer profiles, right? And consumers. One could be very much focused on older, higher mileage, accident is okay, right? As I think about the credit profile and what that looks like. Another store in the same group, same make, but you're focused on late model one owner, clean cars, right? And so understanding what the sales velocity is on each of those stores, what the current stocking level is, what we're seeing from lead activity, as you think about placing cars between those stores in the group, again, to maximize the turn and the gross, right? To make sure you're putting that car where it can perform best in the shortest amount of time. And so it all starts with visibility, right? And we've invested heavily so that you can surface all those attributes in one dashboard. And for a central decision maker, it makes it really easy. You can filter on all the vehicles I have in stock by make, by model, with vehicle history, with leads, with mileage profiles, and then think about where you want to put them based upon the current portfolio position of each store, and execute bulk transfers with one push of the button. Really make it seamless and easy.
Can you all give us an overview of what your, number one, do you share used car inventory across all the stores in the group? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes on both. Okay. Talk about the acquisition strategy to fill those inventories specifically, because I think within 5 miles, that helps, right? You have a geographic barrier, but also you have a lot of stores. Do you have a uniform appraisal process? Is there a main buyer? Just explain your ecosystem, because I think everybody does it a little bit differently, and I think there's a lot to be learned.
Culture. I mean, it's taken a long time to get to where we're at in our company, but yes, we all appraise cars the same way. We use the same tool. It's a consistent message. We have central recon in Fort Wayne for our locations. We have central acquisition, central transportation, but it's taken many steps to get to this point. Many years ago, we built a strategy page. vAuto has one. It's improving. It's getting better and better and better. But we utilize that in our acquisition team to try to help determine where cars need to go. It uses a lot of different data, but we pull a lot of information from vAuto to make that happen for us.
Hey, talk about that a little bit. You said a strategy page.
Yeah, strategy page in vAuto. We'll look at prior sales. We'll look at market, what's going on in the market. Look at our current inventory. Try to help us determine where the car needs to go. Our buyers have access to our sales logs across all the stores. So one of their responsibilities is to try to refill the shelves, restock the shelves, we call it, right? So if we sell a couple Yukons at a store today, they were 20 days old, we make good gross on them, we're gonna certainly try to go out and get them a couple more if we can, if the data tells us to. But that's how we do it.
How do you all handle it?
We're similar. We have we try to keep our acquisition. We have 2 buyers that go out there and buy cars for us, and we use vAuto tool that really shows us what cars are moving quickly. And just like you said, that I could have 2 stores that are 15 minutes apart, but they have a totally different buyer. So we want to make sure that those cars are there for that particular store. And we use technology also. So, it's being that, we have 5 different stores and, moving cars to different locations. We have like our key track system is not key track, it's a different system, but we use a system that lets us know where the car is at all times. And if it's, if Chesapeake comes take a car from Norfolk, we're gonna know that it's at the Norfolk store. So we plug in the number and each one of the sales managers knows where's that car is at all times. So we don't lose cars, and we also know it makes it easier for, we have a centralized BDC, and that's one of the things for scale is that, we do a very good job at the first interaction with a customer. So we have, when I added more stores, we had all the leads still coming into one area, and we were be able to control the lead, control the phone call. And so when the centralized BDC, they take a call from a customer and they're asking about a specific car, they can see where the car is, where the location is by typing it in. That's very important because you don't want to have the customer show up and the car is at a totally different location. So we're using technology to help us with the acquisition or getting that customer in the door. But for me, centralized BDC is very important. And in the phone system that we use, the BDC agent doesn't need to be at the facility. They can be at home. Like I have one person that lives in Kansas. I have one person that lives in California that are actually taking calls, taking leads. And with the way that our phone system works, I can dial from my phone a 4-digit code and I can get anybody anywhere, and I don't know where they are. They don't know where I am, but there's instant access to everyone. So talking about scale is being able to be anywhere and have accessibility. So if I add another store, I already have that centralized BDC and it's all ready to go. We've mastered the answering the phone, answering the lead, and we get the phone is answered within a few seconds. The lead is answered within a few minutes. And and everybody has a dashboard to see how many calls or how many people are on the call right now, how many leads haven't been unanswered, and you can see all of that at any time. So technology is really important for me for scaling.
And all of those remote reps that you're talking about are employees?
They are employees. They actually started at my Chesapeake store and they moved away, but they still wanted to be employed and say, hey,
Is that why you worked out that solution?
Exactly right. I have great employee, but they wanted to, it's like remote work.
Yeah.
We don't need the person to actually be there. Like, we say that, the person that's answering a lead, like a Chesapeake, everybody used to be in Chesapeake. They wouldn't, when they had a question about a car or whatever, they wouldn't go downstairs to talk to the sales desk. They would call them. So what's the difference from them being in China or being there? They're still going to get the same experience because they're going to call, and they have all the access to be able to find out through vAuto, through our key system to know where the cars are. So it makes it very easy. They don't have to be there, and being able to retain people, good quality people, and be able to offer them to be able to work at home, or if there's, like we had a snowstorm, they're at home answering the call. So they don't need to be there, even if they might come in every day. They still have the ability to work remote and never miss a beat.
Wow.
Yeah, and I love that story, Dan. And I think as you're talking about, visibility is critical, right, in the dashboards. And we're talking about the tools of where you place the inventory within the group, but that's only one step, right? As you think about what it takes to actually turn that into return, right? You've got to make sure the car's in the right place. You got to make sure it's priced. But even then, are you merchandising it appropriately? Is your sales team executing appropriately, following up on leads? Are they discounting, right? And so within the tool, we've now built the dashboard where you see all of those elements, right? You see discounting against the car. So, hey, we had the car priced. One store's discounting on average $800 a car. The other store's discounting $200. Now I can dig into that store in the operations side, not just where I placed the car. We solved that problem and we had the car in the right place, but the execution might have fallen down. And now with the dashboard and the reporting, again, driving the accountability, right? Visibility, accountability.
You can see where it's happening.
And execution, right? So now we're focusing the group on where they can execute better to continue to keep that engine turning. And so it's yielding a lot of positive results, not just from an inventory placement perspective, but from a sell-through perspective. And then as you think about maximizing gross and turn, all those additional elements of that equation that you can now have the visibility and continue to help your group improve step by step.
One of the really cool tools, I don't know if it's released or everybody has it, but they have a new enterprise transfer tool at the group level, which enables you to click one button, look at all kinds of data, and click one button. It'll automatically send an email out to everybody that needs to have one. In our case, our accounting office, managers of the stores, the involved stores, whoever it may be, what we're transferring the car for, the amount, they will suggest it to you if you need them to. But for us personally, before doing this, we had to submit an email one at a time, which was very time consuming. So we've talked about efficiency. This has been huge for us. And the tool kind of suggests to you what you ought to do. So that's really neat.
Can you both give me a breakdown of acquisition sources by percentage, roughly?
Well, 30% of our inventory are purchase units. We've heavily focused on getting more trades. Has been our focus for 8 months or so. But outside of that, we're probably half auction actually, and half off the street.
The majority of ours come from trades and acquisition off the street. The Kelly Blue Book Buying Center, we have that almost at all the stores. So.
The majority being like 90+% or like 70+%?
More probably 70. Don't really like going to auction, but we do because sometimes it's a necessity. So we do that. And one of the tools that we use also is UVI. So when we do purchase these vehicles, we send them right through the scan, and it lets us know if there's frame damage, if there's a recall, if there's some type of leak or whatever. And it really helps so that that we're not missing a deadline to what is it called, to when you buy a car.
WIO?
Our arbitration period. So we get it because the cars are coming off, and if our techs are busy or whatever, we want to be able to get it right through and be able to get that. If there's something wrong with it, we can get that car sent back. So that's another thing that we can look at, and everybody in the company has access to be able to see the inspection, the initial inspection of the vehicle.
I think that's another instance of the visibility leading to accountability, right? We thought we bought this. This is what we actually bought. Moving forward, thinking about this very volatile used car environment. We'll stay with used cars because I know like efficiency across rooftops is a huge topic, and we could go into HR, we could go into fixed ops, we could do all these things, but let's stay with used cars. There's a lot of volatility in the market. There's a lot of confusion in the market, both on your team probably is confused over tariff effects. Consumers, there's 10 times more confusion because they just, said this on the main stage, God forbid, watch MSNBC all day, right? So they come in terrified. How are you managing used car inventory, or at least a communication of that through your sales staff, to your consumers, through your BDCs? What are some of the things you're doing to scale that messaging?
We've leaned the inventory. We've actually purposely slowed our turn just a little bit. Tried to focus a bit more on gross.
Do you mind sharing what you slowed it to?
Our current turn collectively is about 14.
Okay.
Which is not terribly slow, but we are accustomed to 17 to 18. So we stock around 400 used retail. We'll sell 450 typically on average. We don't really, I'm not stressed about it, truthfully. We just live day to day, try to focus on all the metrics of the inventory and what the tools are telling us. We meet weekly with all the managers and just stay in the moment, look at every day, every possibility, try to work every single deal, make sure we're doing everything we can to get a trade in is the big key. We've increased that trade capture rate by about 8% in the last 8 months collectively through the group. So that's our primary focus.
Why do you think there are people who are stressed about it? What don't they have in place that you do?
They're watching too much news.
Yeah, too much MSNBC, yeah.
And I think a key thing that Trent said is being guided by the data, right? And staying close to the data and having, we pull 55 million VINs a week price points. So you're seeing 7-8 million VINs a night. So you can stay real time on where that market is moving. And we saw the market move quickly. Mm-hmm. First week of April, used cars as a whole went up 2%, which doesn't seem like a big number, but is huge when you think in aggregate how quickly that market moved end of March, beginning of April. And what we saw, we've invested in the data science behind the tool that's taking into account market day supply, selling velocity, your own experience given your stores and the different customer profiles. We saw dealers that responded to the tool, it kept pace and they did improve gross to the point that the tool was telling them, hey, the market for this car has gone up $300, you should be adjusting. And oh, by the way, the trade that you missed last week, you can put additional $600 or $700 in now. You need to reach back out for that missed trade. That's key inventory sourcing that you've got to stay on top of with how fast the market was moving. And so being able to pull those insights and that real-time pulse of the market into our global search tool, which is where you can stack up missed trades, auction cars, service drive, all in one lens. So as you think about the two Yukons, where's the best way for me to get those two cars to keep this engine turning? Having that data real time has been critical.
Dan, I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Trent, and I just want to remind you, so we do have about 5 minutes left. So if you have questions, put them in the app. We'll answer as many as we can.
But you're talking about other things, but with synergy between stores.
Yes.
I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm a used car expert by any means. I think that I've made my name off of selling new cars, but I love selling used cars, and it's a necessity. But the technology that we use to make all the stores work together. So one of the things that we had that when we didn't have a human resource person. We had our controller doing that when we had 2 stores. So when we got 3 stores, I hired a human resources person. And then we had the 5 stores. So we had to change our technology. So I didn't have to increase personnel. We had to change our technology. So we have a system that when we're onboarding somebody, we can just get their email address and it sends them an onboarding link. We can do a background check. We can get their all their tax forms and everything in one system. They can make selections on healthcare. They can see all the data and all that. And so having that really helps us scale up. So we didn't have to have a whole bunch more headcount because we do centralized accounting. So When we added these more stores, we didn't hire another 15 people. At each one of the stores, we don't have an accounting department. We might have maybe an office manager or billing clerk, but majority of them, with using the DMS, we have no deal files, so we don't have deal files sitting or ROs sitting at each one of the locations. My Ford store, all the deals are billed in Chesapeake, and we don't have anybody there to have to do that. So being that scaling by not increasing your headcount and keeping your expenses down and being able to use technology to help you do that. Back in the day, you would have had to have somebody do it, and they're going through paper and all that kind of stuff. And then you had somebody to file, and then you had to have somebody scaling. Well, we don't do that. So we have everything's electronic. So if I'm looking for a deal that was sold in Ford and I'm in Chesapeake, or I can do it anywhere in the world, and I can pull it up and I can see what happened. I can look at the bill of sale, the customer signature, I can contract and look and see all that stuff. So that's another thing for scaling. It makes it very easy, because I didn't want to increase a bunch of personnel count and increase our expense by a significant amount. I want to be able to keep it at a minimal amount.
So there's a question for you that's very similar. It says, Dan mentioned technology being important for scalability. Can you go a little further into your tech strategy? For example, are you centralizing and streamlining tool sets? It sounds like you kind of answered that question.
So everything is centralized, and we streamline everything with advertising, with everything that we do. I mean, you talked about the tool about keeping up with all the used cars and reconditioning. We use a tool. It's we use Rapid Recon, but all this stuff integrates into one tool, so it makes it very easy. And Viato, they keep coming up with all these new different things that are helping us scale. Every day I get a report to see how each one of the stores is performing, and I can go back and it's called an enterprise report. And then my DMS has an enterprise report. I can have one snapshot, and it's Techion. It's great. I can look and see how each department, each store, everything, every gross, every nickel, everything by just in one shot. And that's what I like about Viato. I can get that same report. I can get the same thing with my DMS, and it's great. I can look at
have a unified look.
A unified look. I can look at my key track, and I can see every key that's out and how long it's been out, who took it out, when is it, all this stuff. And then I have all that stuff that's integrated in with my camera system, so I can see everywhere on
It's like that control center they built in that Batman movie where they have all the cell phones.
But I can see everything that's going on in the dealership other than in the bathrooms, and so I can log in the morning, and I can listen to every single sales meeting. I can look at every single F&I disclosure, and so I don't have to be at each one of the locations to find out what's going on. So talking about scalability and being able to use your time wisely, I can do that all sitting right in my office.
I got time for two very quick ones. I probably don't, but they'll open the doors at some point. Trent, what's next? What's the next thing you're trying to tackle?
At the moment, continuing to work on our trade percentage, finishing out 2025 strong, continuing to grow. It's been a good year so far. So.
There you go, steady as she goes.
Yep.
Derek, what's next for Viato?
Yeah, Viato, we're investing heavily right now in AI use cases. I think there's a lot of opportunity in inventory management and AI and how we continue to feed those insights into the tool. And so we've got a lot of beta prototypes that we're working on right now, and how we enable the tool to start to guide and assist you in all the decisions that you have to make across inventory and merchandising. And so some exciting things coming in the back half of 25 as those start to get to market.
Very nice. Well, thank you for being here. Can we hear it for our panel today? Thanks for sharing your time and your insights with us. Have a great show, everyone.